first, Maine art lovers and thousands more from around the country will be heading to Rockland this summer for a new show of paintings by Jamie Wyeth. He is part of what may be the most revered family in American art. His father, Andrew Wyeth, and grandfather, N.C. Wyeth, are still famous for their works. Jamie Wyeth lives and works much of the year in Maine and has long ties to our state, stretching back to childhood. 207's Don Kerrigan went to visit Wyeth to talk about the new show of his work and his long and successful career as an artist.
To visit Jamie Wyeth, we had to go to sea, to his lighthouse on Southern Island, where we got a cannon shot welcome. This cannon, original to the lighthouse, a place the artist clearly loves.
You know, as somebody said, it's like running away with a circus, you know, to live in a lighthouse.
Jamie has known and loved this place much of his life. He came here as a teenager when his parents, Andrew and Betsy, owned the island. Jamie says when he was in his early 20s, he was able to buy his first house on Monhegan Island, where he also spends a lot of time. All of that made possible by painting, an art that called to him even as a child.
It fit right into what I wanted to do, and that's all I wanted to do, and that's why.
From your earliest memories?
Well, I left school in the the 6th grade just to do that.
Was that you saying, Mom and Dad, I want to paint. I don't want to be in school?
And my father was for it. My mother was wildly against it. And the Pennsylvania Board of Education was wildly against it. Nobody was taken out of school. Now, of course, it's done all the time.
But it worked out, and his natural talent from his father Andrew and his grandfather N.C. Wyeth soon showed. Like this portrait of the late President Kennedy, commissioned by the family when Jamie was only about 20 years old.
When I did it, it was just loathed. How could you do that to, Because everybody's perception of him was blonde, blue-eyed, neither of which he was. And I was particularly working with the brothers. I mean, they're wonderful people, but very blunt and tough. And I had started this portrait very romantic of him, and I tore it up and then did this.
The JFK portrait is now part of the Boston Museum of Fine Art. Jamie wouldn't let us see his studio. He keeps that private, but says he tries to paint every day. Some works can take a year to complete.
The opiate to me in painting is when things become alive, where what you're doing all of a sudden breathes and looks at you and so forth. That's what, and there's no bigger high than that. But that's rare, and a lot of it. But I think it's like a pianist or something. You got to keep at it, and then when those moments come, boom. And that's really why I drive myself to paint every day.
And the public will get to see an unusual collection of his works at a new exhibit opening July 4th at the Farnsworth Museum in Rockland. It's called Unsettled, a show of Wyeth works that are different, says museum curator Jane Bianco.
There's a mysterious aspect. There's something very alluring about his paintings. They draw you in. They're very narrative. They're very suggestive. The longer you spend in front of a painting, as with many artists, the more you will see, the more you will feel.
Jamie says some of them are a reflection of his own life.
My life is a bit unsettled. I mean, I lost, my father, and then my mother, and then my wife, my partner, in a period of, very few years. And so that was a huge shock, and so the work, I think, is a result of that. And you'll see, I mean, if you see it, there's quite different. I mean, not huge different, but more intense color.
But he has often worked with unusual images.
I want things to be a little more interesting than just, oh, it looks like it, or isn't that a beautiful building, or, I just want a little more edge to it.
Like seagulls that can seem a little more aggressive than usual.
Most people's perception of seagulls, at least painters, is they look like doves or something. Well, seagulls are nasty creatures. I mean, they eat one another. They're scavengers, which I love about them.
A few years ago, he even did a series with seagulls illustrating the 7 deadly sins.
You have Monhegan, that's Monhegan right there on the horizon. And then you have Matinicus Rock.
From his own lighthouse, Jamie Wyeth says he sees the endlessly fascinating world of the island and the sea that inspires many of the ideas to put on canvas. You're still working, you're still creating.
Well, that's all I do, yeah. I'm a very boring person, actually.
For the thousands who will flock to see his latest exhibit, Jamie Wyeth's skill and those ideas are as fascinating as the place he calls home.
Jamie Wyeth says he still paints portraits, among other things, and is now working on one of Maine businesswoman Linda Bean, who died over the winter. Bean and Wyeth were good friends, and she was a collector of his family's art. The exhibit at the Farnsworth Museum opens July 4th, and it runs through September. It was organized by the Brandywine Museum in Pennsylvania, which is the other important center for Wyeth family artwork. The exhibit will visit 3 other U.S. cities after Rockland.